We're about to start a hair restoration on this gentleman, and I think this is a great example of all the different parts of the scalp that need to be reconstructed. What you're looking at right here is this is the hairline zone as we move backward, and all the angles of the hairs are going to be in this direction, straight forward. That's very, very important so that you can create a very dense wall of hair so you can't see through it. You don't want to start splaying the grafts out. As you get further into the lateral area, just about this corner right here, there's a gentle transition. It's not an abrupt one. Every part of the hair should really just gently transfer over to another so that there is a natural pattern that goes from one to the next and you don't see an abrupt change. So that subtle change transfers over about the lateral 1 centimeter. As we go into the temple hair, you can also actually see the hair, and that's very important as you're doing the procedure that you actually follow the natural pattern of hair. Sometimes it's different from one side to the other. If you look, the hair is actually growing in this direction down here, and it really is what I want to reproduce. So to match exactly what I'm seeing on this gentleman's hair, it's going to go this way and then start sweeping down that way. So there's a little bit of a curvature going down. That's the temple area, the temple area that is going to match with the transition from the lateral hairline. We talked about in the text an area called the central forelock. This is the central forelock about right here. This zone is so important to fill densely because from all directions, when people look at this gentleman from the frontal view, it's going to create a wall of density. So even though focus density is the whole thing, I'm really focusing on tremendous density in this one central zone right here. As we go back, this is the mid-scalp. And the mid-scalp, it should also be forward, just like this, just like we're showing in the anterior hairline. And these grafts are going to be using our combination graft technique, which is going to be much higher density. So there's really almost no see-through effect in the central zone. Again, there's going to be a little splaying, but remember that the splaying has to be only in the lateral centimeter right here, and that's going to transition into the area called the lateral hump, which is right here. You see this little curvature. And that hump is an area that we're going to turn the head for a moment to show you in a moment, to show you what exactly how that transitions over better, but we're going to go back and talk about that in a moment. If you go further back from the posterior mid-scalp, this is really the limit from the posterior mid-scalp into the crown, and this line that you're seeing, the posterior line that you barely can see on the screen, is known as what's the vertex transition zone. Essentially what that is, it's a line that defines the beginning of the crown. It's the changeover from the horizontal plane of the scalp to the vertical plane of the scalp. With the crown, this is a very important thing, is it's not good idea to fill with this much alopecia or hair loss. You don't want to fill from here all the way back to the crown. Otherwise you get a very spotty look that looks artificial. You want to create a really good dense result in this area before you go and ever do the crown. And that's obviously, as we talk about in the medical solutions, a great area to stabilize with propecia before we start attacking it from a surgical perspective. But the vertex transition zone needs to be, you should think of it almost like a posterior hairline, because if you think about the anterior hairline, it's a transition from the horizontal to vertical scalp. It's the same thing here from horizontal to vertical scalp. So we need to create a wall of density from all angles in the front and also all angles in the back. That way you literally just can't see through it, whether you're looking from the back or the front. These are all finer grafts that then merge forward into a larger graft area. We're going to show this in a recipient site video. You can see that in the accompanying recipient site video. And here, going back, these are again finer grafts that begin more rapidly to enter into the larger density zone here so that people can't see it from all different angles. We're going to finish here this video with one more particular area called the lateral hump. And the lateral hump is this curvilinear design that ends medially, that's toward the center, at the outer portion of the eye. It's a line that draws and it parallels the split here from called the temporal angle from the hairline to the temple. And it's very important, if you look at his remaining hairs here, how it sweeps, you can actually begin to see that it's almost a horizontal position right here at the top portion of the hump, and it begins to cascade down like this. And so that cascade effect going downward is what we replicate to the absolute precision that we can do in every single site that I create. So that's just hopefully a little good primer for you to understand all the various regions of the scalp in a gentleman that's just about to have hair restoration in a few minutes. Many of my coordinators suggested I add one more part to this video, which I agree with. If you look at this area, the hairline and the temporal angle, it's very important that the key with this is understanding that the hairline can't, first of all, be just drawn all the way out to here, because that's an artificial look. It's got to match where it should terminate, which is about right here, which is at the outer portion of the eye. This temporal angle is defined as the area at the outer part of the eye where the temple begins and where the hairline ends. It's important that when we reconstruct a hairline that we match the temple so that it matches the angle and the position of this area. If you see someone with a toupee or what's also more formally known as a hair system, the reason that looks artificial is that when the hairline juts forward, there isn't a support to the temple area. It's what I call a lid effect, because it essentially doesn't match and doesn't balance. So what we're doing here is matching the temple angle to the hairline to create an absolutely seamlessly natural result in every single situation.